Section 504 is in danger of being classified as unconstitutional because several Republican-controlled states like Texas and Arkansas and West Virginia, Indiana, Alaska, and several more have filed suit against the federal government to have its protections removed entirely. Why, you might ask? Well, simply put, transphobia. Now, you might be wondering, what is Section 504? Section 504 is the congressional creation of the Americans with Disabilities Act, or the ADA. It is essentially what enshrines the rights and protections for people with disabilities in the United States of America. The ADA has been paramount in furthering the ability for people with other abilities to be able to function in society without discrimination. It stops discriminatory practices by businesses, schools, and government agencies against people with disabilities and requires them to offer accommodations for those people. For example, wheelchair ramps, special accessible elevators, other things that allow people with disabilities to get in and around buildings and be able to function at their daily jobs. It stops everyone from discriminating against people with disabilities by refusing employment because you're disabled or refusing services at a hospital because you're disabled. This is one of the most important pieces of legislation we've ever passed as far as rights and protections for people in this country, in the history of the country itself. These Republican states are going after it, as I alluded to before, because of transphobia, because during the Biden administration, it was updated. 504 was updated to include transgender people with gender dysphoria as being a legitimate disability that fell under the protections and the rights of people who were in the ADA. It means that businesses cannot discriminate against transgender people or refuse to employ them just because they're trans. It means that hospitals cannot turn trans people away just because they're trans and have gender dysphoria. This is what enraged all of those states. These Republican attorneys general and the Republican representation behind them are pushing this lawsuit essentially because of transphobia. They are very upset that trans people are now protected and have equal rights and representation in the government under Section 504, and rather than suing to have those components that were included during the Biden administration removed, they're going after the entire thing. Their claim in the lawsuit is that Section 504 is unconstitutional. And I wanted to break down what their actual claim that they're levying against the government of unconstitutionality is. Basically stated, not verbatim, but trying to summarize for you, the red states are upset that they are legally bound by the ADA to comply with non-discrimination practices and accommodations for disabled people, and that if they don't, they were refused federal funding. Simply put, they want to be able to legally discriminate against anybody they see as different and still be able to suck off of the federal teat and get all the welfare money that they think they're due at the state level. So what does the United States look like if these states are successful with their lawsuit and Section 504 is deemed unconstitutional at the federal level? This means that in many states, not just red ones, but in many states, private businesses and public sectors are legally allowed to discriminate against anybody with a disability. They're legally allowed to refuse services at a hospital, legally allowed to refuse accommodations at your workplace, or refuse to hire you at all solely based on the fact that you are disabled or you are different than they are and they don't like it. This is going to set the United States back 50 plus years in our progression towards human equality and rights for all people. It's really a regressive kind of policy, a regressive tactic used by the Republican Party to push us back to a period of time where they had all the control and they had all the power and they were allowed to essentially own people. That's what they want. That's really what this is they want all the money and they want to be able to control people. Surprise, surprise. So what can you do about it? The best thing that you can do is if you live in one of those states that's in this lawsuit, like Arkansas or Texas, Alaska, Indiana, West Virginia, and several more, I'll make sure to post those in my Substack for you to read. Call your Attorney General's office and demand that they remove the state from that lawsuit because it's not what you want. It's not what the state should stand for. It's the best weapon we have right now, unfortunately. So please, stay safe. Thank you for listening.